So after that session, then you've mentioned that then you come back with the parents, there'll be a conversation. What did we notice? What did we witness? How's that heading towards the goals and the objectives that families want to see? Families come because they want to see change. People want to see some change in whatever way that might be. You mentioned about notes earlier. Maybe now that's the time that we could talk about how notes might look. Do you want to talk about that, or shall?
Yeah, well, perhaps maybe we can shift over, because I mean that's sort of most of the expressive therapy side of things covered. And obviously, if people have any more questions, they can get in contact with us in regards to online therapy, expressive therapy for kids specifically, because it is very unique, I would say, to people's situations and to children's situations and interests and all that kind of thing. So I think if maybe just to bracket that off, if anybody has any other questions about that, then you can certainly contact us and we can explore that, I guess, as we go. But I thought maybe in regards to notes, because I know that your note-taking process is, something that I've certainly learned from, and it's kind of divulging into this new online version, perhaps with your practice of family therapy and as a family therapist, what that kind of looks like when we start to go into this online space, how you've managed that. So I guess, I was wondering about what family therapy sort of looks like online, or what considerations people might have, or just how it might be different to in person.
Yeah, okay, that's great. So I think maybe just family therapy broadly, or systemic therapy as well is what it's called, and family and systemic therapist is where we don't just think about individuals in isolation. We think about individuals as part of relationships with lots of other people and places. And my role as a therapist is to be able to understand what those patterns look like. And is there anything that's happening? Kind of mine that for information. Is there anything that we can find that's happening that is of benefit and is positive for everybody? Is there anything that's taking place that actually we recognise and we investigate with all parties that seems to be somehow inhibiting growth and change? So I think that's the broad coverage of what systemic therapist does. It still very much might be that, family presents, and you just talked about a child, an individual child, family presents with a child. It's still thinking about that child, but at the same time recognizing that child is part of a bigger system. They're part of an ecosystem of carers and loved ones, brothers and sisters, teachers, other therapists, a whole range of people, and everybody's having an interaction. So my job is to try and get some idea of what that might look like and what might be happening that we can use to facilitate change. Now, thinking about that then, and you mentioned the different therapies that we offer, modalities of therapy. One of the things that we do, and as you know, because we work closely side by side, is that we integrate our approaches. We recognize that no matter what it is that you do with a child, that can be transformative and can be fantastic, but at the same time, that child lives as part of a wider system. They live in a family. Yeah, they live with carers. They live with a range of people. And so often what we do is that work that you're doing, we then bring together in a family setting as well. So they complement each other. And that's the idea there, is to reinforce some of the work that we've seen in individual sessions, lift that out and bring it into the family so that outside of these sessions, that work can continue. It happens. That change needs to be realized outside of the four walls of the therapy room. It actually needs to be something that's experienced and lived in between sessions. So we'll find some of that. We'll talk about that with families as well. And then we'll also talk with families about how are things going? What change have we noticed? What seems to be getting in the way? What's changed since before? And we're trying to map that out, and then we'll try and understand what that is so we can continue to build on it. Mm-hmm. So I think that's speaking to family therapy and systemic therapy broadly, and similarly then that could be in my own practice, it could be that I'm working with people that aren't coming with a child actually, and they're thinking still though about what their patterns of relationship look like. They might be coming with a child, but it's an adult child as part of the family, an adult child. So it's still very much focused on what do those relationships look like? What can we do? What can we unlock that will help bring change about that families want to see.
Yeah.
I do that in the room, and it's very much engaging with different parts. So I'm kind of pointing, I move my hands a lot, as you know. So everybody needs to have a voice in those situations. If I'm working with more than one person, everybody needs to know that their voice is important and their voice is heard. They're all unique parts and they all have a unique view of what's taking place. And we're trying to get some common understanding. So in the room, we would all sit around, however many people that is, and it can be a lot. It might be just a few. It could be, parents and children. It could be parents and children, but it can be grandparents, parents, children, aunts, uncles, so on and so forth. We would sit around in a room and we would start to explore those patterns together. And to do that, I use a lot of visual aids, which I'll come to in a moment when we talk about our note keeping. In the online space, that process is still the same, except now that rather than looking at people sat on different chairs and people are sat close to each other, people sat further apart and what that might look like, and I'm getting to see how people are chatting. We're in our own little boxes like this. Now, the benefits of that I talked about earlier is actually some people can feel that they've got more space to talk. And as the therapist, it's still my role to very much privilege people being able to contribute equally so they feel that their voice is heard and know that their voice is heard. So people would come into the session online, we would meet and greet in the ways that we do. And then I'd start that process by, okay, so what do we want to see change? What is it that we want to see change? And that's my initial assessment process. And part of that is I need to have a clear understanding of what I'm working towards. So once people agree what it is that they want to see change, then I go, okay, so then we can start thinking about what are the steps that we're going to take towards achieving that.
Yeah.
And through that session, I'll scaffold those sessions so that at the end of the sessions, we always have some idea of something that we're going to go away and think about or do, or something that we're going to reflect on, or a specific action. There will be something that we will try and do. It might be that piece of work that you've been doing with the child is something that we go, okay, so we've heard about that. That's the thing that we're going to go and try. How can we do that more, that interaction more between now and the next session? And really for people to be mindful and to try and be aware of what's taking place when that action is taking place. So we're really trying to build momentum for change. My understanding is families, individuals come to see people like ourselves because they want something to change. They want something, whether it's understanding or a different way of being, whatever it is, they want something to change. And so it's incumbent upon us to put as much energy into that as possible to make that happen.
Yeah. I think it's great.
Also,
yeah, I think it's great that you mentioned the scaffolding thing, because it, like, from what you've said, everything about the way that you run sessions and assessments and everything, really, it seems like the way that we work as a whole, at Expressive Therapy SA, those assessments are kind of like an all-in-one package. Whoever you kind of get, you're getting the same thing, and that we all kind of come together to be able to understand, and collaborate on, what might be best, or what direction the family wants to go in, or the individual, in whatever case, if there's children or not, and that we're always kind of collaborating amongst everyone to be able to figure out what that might be.
And I think that's the word. Sorry, is collaboration. We are experts in certain things. The thing that we are not expert in is people's lives and how they live their lives and how they experience them. And it's only through collaborating that we then start to get all that information together into some kind of package and understanding that kind of, okay, that makes sense. That's now what we can do. And it is a collaborative process. It's a shared process. People don't attend, whether it's online or in-person sessions, with any of us at Expressive Therapy. We're not the experts that are going to then go and tell you, do 4 of these a day and you'll be right, kind of thing. That's not what we do. We work together to make small changes that lead to bigger changes.
And by the sounds of it, the online space is a space that really enables further collaboration, because there are people who may have not been able to have access to services, or are in rural locations that can't get there in person, but still their voice still needs to be heard. And so that gives them that opportunity, whether it's, in a family context, individual context, in a context.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In the family context, there may be members of the family that are still hugely significant, but physical distance is a difficulty. But there's still significant people that we need to, that have information and maybe people want to communicate with. This helps facilitate that.
I was also thinking of the scenarios, which I think I've had a few times, and perhaps yourself as well, and families that we've worked with, around other practitioners and schools as well, and the ability for online mediums to be able to facilitate all of those people coming together too, because I think, getting those places in person, people have limited time schedules, as you've said, and when we're looking at the broader systems of people's lives, they do often involve other services, schools, workplaces, all these different elements where we want to be able to bring everybody together and have everyone on the same page and have everyone understanding what's working so we can do more of it. And I think online is a great medium to do that.
That's such a good point. As you were speaking then, that really brought it to my memory. Some real life experiences that we've had working, and how you get everybody leaning in the same direction, and schools being such an important place. Children that come to see us, invariably they're spending most of their waking week in schools. They're doing that place. They're really important people around them, and having everybody on the same page so that parents know that they're being supported by all parties is hugely useful.
Yeah.